You're listening to episode 217 of Lifestyle Locker Radio with Matt Zinman. Hi, I'm Dr. Josh Hand, and I want to welcome you to Lifestyle Locker Radio. It is here where we talk all things lifestyle, from fitness to nutrition, peak performance to longevity, awesome relationships to inspirational stories. We take you on an amazing journey to all things life and lifestyle. Enjoy the ride. And for today's guest, if you want to learn more than they're going to tell you on this show, I urge you to scroll down, check out the show notes to get a detailed bio and everything you need to know about our guest today. We also encourage that you comment, review, and share this show if you are enjoying it from wherever and whenever you're listening. Lastly, we encourage you to check out all the links that we provide in the show notes. They are there for you, for your health, for your lifestyle. We ultimately want you to unleash your human potential. So dive into this episode. We'll see you on the inside. Hey everyone, welcome back to Lifestyle Locker Radio. We have an awesome guest today. His name is Matt Zinman. So welcome, bud.
Josh, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
I'm excited to have you. Just getting to meet you virtually, look at your book, look at your background. You have a really, really neat story, which I would love for you to talk about so we can actually get into the meat and potatoes of, your book, your podcast, this mission that you're on right now. I think it's very powerful and in a perfect time as well in our history of this world. So.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it really is, I think, a factor of just the years adding up. Experiences start to accumulate. Well, I'm in and around Philadelphia, and I've been here my whole life. I went to Temple University and graduated journalism, and I'm on my third career right now. So my first one was marketing, communication, branding, public relations, advertising. And then I started a nonprofit in 2007 called the Internship Institute to help employers set up internship programs, employers of any size. And I'm still doing that, although that is a little bit more on the side burner right now with what's up with COVID.
Yeah.
And it's also a space that I've had to write the book, as you mentioned, Z-isms. And then I started a podcast just a couple months back called Insights to Live By. And I partner with my wife, Erica. She's a certified health coach, and we rep for a company, Isogenics, Health and Nutrition.
All right. So let's talk about what actually got you into this third part, we'll say that third career of your life. Right. This to me looks like a very passion-oriented project. This doesn't look like something you're like, hey, maybe I'm just going to start a podcast and write a book.
That's exactly right. It's, I have an older son, Jake, who's now 19. He started college last year, and I ended up having more time on my hands. And that's a certain inflection point of, well, okay, what do I do with that? And binge watching really wasn't quite the answer. So I really just asked a pointed question, which is, well, what would I regret not doing? And there's the book that I've been wanting to write for a lot of years, and it rose right to the surface in asking that question. And you never really know what you have. It's like, well, okay, I've got these concepts and things I've talked about. I don't really hear other people talking about it. Is it unique? Let me just start writing. And that's what I did. I got into action and wrote for about a couple of days. And if I came out of it and it was just, this, that, and the other thing, maybe it would be a blog. But it was really more fully fledged. So then once I got into action, it was like, oh, I've come too far to turn back. So then, you keep going. But you're right, Josh. I didn't have an end game here, honestly. Like, I'm not a business coach or life coach or anything where I'm writing a book to as more of a business card, with all due respect. Yeah. I wrote it because I believe in what I got between the pages there, and that it can help people and to get it out there. And after publishing it earlier this year, again, I really had no end game. It was just, okay. And then in a similar interview afterwards with a podcaster, they said, well, have you ever thought about doing your own podcast? And I was like, no. And, but one thing after another, and put my head down and started it in late July. And now I'm coming up on episode 20 of Insights to Live By.
Yeah, I think that's so cool. And getting into writing a book, I've been asked about that. When are you writing a book? I'm like, I wouldn't even know where to start. And I like that you just said you just put your hand to paper and just let it ride for a couple days, and then everything started coming out. And it's like, wow, okay, this is bigger than a blog. This is going to be something big. And then jumping into podcasting is not something that's uh, like, oh, I can just go start a podcast tomorrow. So I applaud you for doing all the easy things right away, right when you
Yeah, sure.
right at that transition.
I'm really loving it. I totally can relate to what you love about it, what we were talking about pre-show, and you're up near episode, you say 200 or something of that?
Yeah, I'm at 206 or 207 at this
That's
point.
crazy. Yeah. Well, they do seem to stack up quickly, but I'm really enjoying it. When with the nonprofit, which I still do, and that education space and working with employers, it's a grind. You're really kind of going against the current. And this work with the book and what it's led to with the podcast, I really feel in my zone. I really feel like things are going my way.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I almost haven't had this feeling in too long. So I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, I think like in the terms of having a marketing background, it's like now you have pull marketing. Now you want to have like you're bringing people to you versus like having to push through the ranks to get information to people. People are like, wow, this is great. They can find you for the reason they want right away. Right. So let's dive in. Let's talk about Z-isms, because I love on your website. I'm just going to read this, like the noun, like Z-ism is a noun, pearl of wisdom, original wit, or personal experience one shares to positively impact as many people as possible. And I think that's like, we need to put that. Is that even in a dictionary yet? We need to get that in a dictionary.
That's my next goal.
Okay,
good. I hadn't really given it much thought. But Z-isms, as much as I have an affinity and there's a history behind it, with my last name, Zinman, it really is about everybody. We all have our pearls of wisdom that we've accumulated, those life lessons that we share, whether it's things that we've gained through experience or were passed on to us from others, grandparents and so forth, coaches. And that's why with the show, at least my guest episodes, I'm having people come on and share theirs and exploring them. And then I had the other show as a solo show I do every week, where I'm, sharing my own insights about it. But it's been a journey, continues to be.
Yeah. So let's go into the actual guts of the book here. As I go through and scroll through your website, I mean, there's lots of different pieces that I don't have all of them in my head right now, but self-discovery, you talk about self-discovery and interaction. So it's not just about being, you being, we'll say, the best you can be, right, but it's actually having that human interaction and how that can help and maybe inspire yourself and others as well.
Absolutely. It is as holistic as I could make it. Someone said, well, what's your next book? And I'm like, I don't know. Ask me in 10 years, because I put everything I have into this one. And so it's about the, looking inward and around mindfulness and self-discovery, but a lot of it has to do with interactions, personally, business interactions, things that lead up to managing conflict, emotional intelligence around that. And then we get into amplifying awareness around mindfulness and having some fun. There is a chapter called Swimming with the Current. Okay. Or having fun with coincidences. 1111 is chapter 11. And then we get into the law of attraction and what is that? And how does that work in and around gratitude? And then we get into a section around inevitability, which is putting that into action. I've been an entrepreneur, as I mentioned, for coming up on 20 years. So those experiences are shared there. But ultimately, the goal is for it to be actionable. So it has this LEAP, which is a life enrichment action plan, which is this 90-day framework that someone can rely on to go back through the book and do, this exercise or that exercise, different explorations they likely hadn't done before. And you can do it a la carte, or you can really, do it in a structured way. But the goal is for someone to, make it impossible for anyone to come away from the book without being better off.
So it's essentially are available to be an action plan for people to actually get stuff on paper. The same way you wrote the book, like people can actually make their action plan for their life, not just read a book and say, that was a great book and put it on the shelf.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not a workbook, although that's been suggested to me, but it's meant to be done in manageable chunks, because when you're talking obviously about personal growth and all that goes into it, if you bite off too much than you can chew, you give up. And so it really was meant to be, bite size. And there's examples like, the first chapter around earned confidence, And I'll talk about that in a moment, about turning inward. And there's another one about be aware of spiders, which is dealing with manipulators in your life. And one of the exercises in this example is, okay, let's take inventory. Who are the people in your life? Are they a spider or are they not a spider? Are they this or that? To kind of help you explore your relationships. And ultimately, that's a big part of our life enrichment, and taking that inventory and what we can do to be proactive about shaping our experiences, certainly within ourselves, but also among those with whom we choose to spend our time.
That's neat. So it is a workbook in a sense that people can actually just really do stuff, which I think is great, because I've read countless, self-development, personal development, whichever you want to call it, books, marketing books, business books. A lot of them are written just to read. And I love like the select few that I enjoy. You can actually like scribble on the side of the page, actually take notes, and actually have things that you can actually do and measure. Because in life, it's an interesting game as we go through that. I mean, there is no winner in life, but ultimately our goal is to keep progressing and keep getting better as an individual, because I think it helps community as well. But with Z-isms coming out now, like during this crazy time that we're all living through around the planet, can you give a couple examples of what maybe someone can take from the book to apply to maybe they've been unemployed, maybe they've had loss, whatever it may be? Like, what are some little tidbits that someone can take and maybe take some action steps? Like, I want them to get the book. That's the first action step.
Thank you.
But the next, like, what are some simple concepts that they can just go and say, great, I can make a change in my life today with these, 2 minutes of learning?
Right. Well, the book is written as if it's a personal conversation, and it builds one chapter on the other.
Okay.
So the first one at its foundation is called earned confidence. And it's something that we all have, which is to say that everyone's been through everything they've been through in their lives, as hard as all those trials and tribulations have been, and you're still here. You're still standing. You've overcome that. And so it's a reminder, as simple as it sounds, that you're fully capable of dealing with those occurrences in real time. So that right away eliminates things not to worry about. And anxiety. And then it also goes to the past and facing your regrets or any grudges you might have with people. So those are all things that are your past or future. And so earned confidence is really about staying in the present, rooting in gratitude. A lot of it has to do with kindness. And people think of kindness as kindness toward others. But in this example, within earned confidence, it's about self-kindness and how that applies. And one of the things I really like about it is that, in and around personal development, we talk about the obvious things around self-love, self-esteem, and respect and all that. And those can be very tough to get your arms around in any one way. They seem too big. I want to feel that way about myself or what have you, but how do I get there? But when you talk about it being about self-kindness, it really is a this or a that. It's that building block. In any given circumstance, you're either being kind to yourself or you're not. And so if you're someone who, let's say, is a people pleaser, and you have a hard time saying no to other people, which in the example here might be you're, potentially going to be falling prey to a spider who would maybe manipulate you because they know they can. If you say yes to someone asking something of you that I really should say no, then that wouldn't be kind to say yes. So that's your barometer, because it's a double hit when you say yes, because now you feel terrible about, what you've agreed to and somewhat being taken advantage of. And then you actually follow through to do it. And that those bad feelings build on each other. So self-kindness is really that barometer.
Yeah. I like that concept of self-kindness. I'm thinking as you're talking, and even if there wasn't even another person to interact with, I'll fall into this, my own trap, thinking like, if I like, why am I not where I want to be in life? Or why am I not doing X, Y, Z? And I kind of will have this self-talk, which, like you just said, like, I'm already here. I already made it this far through all of these trials and tribulations. So can you talk about maybe even that self-conversation, if there's not that spider in the room,
Right.
so to say?
Yeah, absolutely. The first question to ask yourself, which should be an obvious answer, is why be anything less than kind to yourself? And if you can't answer that in an affirmative, then you somewhat know where to start. So that's the obvious buy-in. Of course, I should be kind to myself, and it gives you that foundation. Some of it also has to do with squaring off against your own tendencies, essentially, especially when it comes to like worrying. If you're a worrier and that's a habit, then it's not so easy just to always stop yourself. But what you have to do in working at it is recognize, well, something that you worried about, whatever it is that you put yourself through, and then never happens. You have to stop and be like, well, what did I just do to myself? All this worrying. Or who else did I talk to? Josh, I called you up. We talked about half an hour about how I'm worried about something, and then it never happens. Yeah. So now we're friends in this case. And of course, friends are there to lean on one another, but that was unnecessary. So we also have a personal responsibility around our energy and how we exchange that with other people. So again, in this example, I wasn't being responsible in leaning on you about something that I'm not really entirely sure is going to happen. So just deal with the real. Because now I really have this real problem, Josh. Now I'm going to call you up. Yeah. Have a conversation. So that's really the difference in putting it into action.
Yeah. I like that. Deal with the real. That's a great quote. I think you should write that one down.
I don't think I'm the originator of that one, I'm sure.
No, but I think it's neat that you bring up the concept of self-accountability. And that's super, super powerful. And I know you talk about like being a life athlete, like having optimal self-care in the book. Right. And I think that self-accountability like starts at step 1, but it also keeps going through step 100 and beyond of life. So will you talk about a little bit, we mentioned, not affirmations, we mentioned the law of attraction is what I was thinking of, right? Mentioning the law of attraction. And as we talk about accountability, and you just gave the example of me complaining, like I call it to complain about something that's really not even going to happen, right?
No, I was the one complaining.
Oh, you were complaining.
Yeah,
okay,
no,
sorry.
I was taking the heat. I would never put that on you.
So you were complaining to me.
Right.
How does that actually impact the law of attraction?
That's a great question. I can't, have the conversation here and say, well, I invented the law of attraction.
No,
right? No more than deal with the real, right?
Exactly.
Foundation of quantum physics and things well beyond my full understanding, and it is what it is, and or not, depending on whatever it actually is. But in my experience, I believe that the law of attraction boils down to what we expect tends to happen. So there's a causality there. So if you go back to the example to connect the dots of your question of I was worrying about something, if there is that truth to the law of attraction, and worry is about setting an expectation about something that you do not want to happen, it's possible that the very fact that you're worrying can cause the very thing that you do not want to happen. Yeah. So that's really where I see those dots connect.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. My father, growing up, and even to this day, will say, be careful what you think. It might become true.
That's right.
Right.
Exactly
and
right.
I guess that's same when it comes out of our mouth. If we're constantly worrying, we're just like waiting for the next bad thing to happen. If we become that worrywart, and it doesn't really serve us as a human being that needs to be growing, it kind of shrinks us and it makes it harder to climb out of that hole.
Yeah. I mean, in this example, if you're somebody who's, why does the sky always fall down on me? And the answer is because you're always saying why is the sky falling down on me?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really great. Let's jump into, to jump into, I'm just looking at some of the highlights in the book, that what I mentioned before, being a life athlete, that optimal self-care. How does that impact the person as you go through your whole process in the book?
Well, there's kind of a dual chapter there between the life athlete and minding your mood health. And I want to put them together because the topic of mood health is really important to me. I just did a couple of shows on it. It's National Suicide Awareness Prevention Month now, and all that. And in the book, like I said, it's written from a number of personal disclosures, one of which is that I have had to contend with depression, since my early teens. And because of that, I need to have a certain, I have to be a lot more proactive about taking care of myself so that I maintain my mood health in that respect. And the brain and the body health are, I don't know why they get separated, right? The brain is, it's right up there, right on top. And so that segues then into being a life athlete. And once again, I'm not here to be the exercise physiologist, to walk through, but I certainly visit all of those best practices. And I developed a tool, which is the self-care report card, which then relies on, National Sleep Foundation and, Harvard Food Pyramid, on and on, about what are the guided recommendations. And then I gave it a weighted algorithms as a simple accountability tool that's free on the site for your listeners to, keep themselves accountable for a few minutes once a week. Did I exercise 3 times? Did I get enough sleep? And then there's one aspect of that scale that talks about stress management. So it's the reverse. Did I avoid stress? Did I mitigate stress? Okay. Because things happen. So all of the, I think it's fair to say most people recognize stress as, if not the worst, one of the worst things for you. So it had to be factored into that. And so that's really the goal, is to just visit those best practices, what people really know about, but also provide tools for how they can keep themselves accountable. Yeah.
So it brings awareness to the stressors, but it helps people be accountable for the positive.
Absolutely.
I like that. So I think that's great, because if you don't see what you're avoiding, it's like driving a car. Right. You're not paying attention to that accident that maybe just happened on the side of the road, and you're focused on something else. You may get into that accident. So I think that's really, really a powerful thing.
It all goes together, and in the sense that when we talk about and having an amplified awareness and having to apply that to things around earned confidence, or being mindful of the people who are around you and, those 5 closest people to you, your tribe. Same thing goes with your awareness of how you're feeling, and energy management, the practical side of energy management. If I'm trying to write a paragraph and it's taking me half an hour to get the first sentence, I probably should go do laundry. Yeah. There's some of those practical approaches. And the same thing goes here. You need to be aware of the fact that you're stressed. You have to check in with yourself to even catch it, because we get too much in that groove. Then we look back and realize, why am I so fatigued and everything else? Because you didn't call yourself out to, go take a walk, take a break, take a few, gentle breaths. Yeah. When you need it.
Agreed. So you mentioned your tribe, the 5 people that you keep closest to yourself. I know some people may understand that concept.
Right.
And you talk in your book about, the interactions with other people. So how does that tribe, or those 5 people, I don't even know if that's in the book, but how does that help, either help your energy as a human or sink it down?
Right. Well, look, a lot of us are going through a major shift and have gone through a major shift with COVID, and there's just no other way but through. And, we're social creatures. And so we've had to adapt in any number of ways, both in terms of being isolated, sheltered in place, or just generally having to be cautious, and then not necessarily having physical access to being around people. And we have to be more proactive about balancing out what our needs are around that, social, fuel. It's, you're feeding yourself, the positivity of being around other people and not isolating and having that be a drain. So it really is about being mindful. And yes, it actually is a reference in the book. And again, also mentioned by someone that we become the sum of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. And so that goes back to energy awareness. Well, let's take a look at those 5 people. Is this person somewhat draining me, or are they feeding me energetically? Is there one person in my tribe who's just this, just sucks the life out of me? As much as, you might care for them, you have to care for yourself as well. And then who might also be in my periphery, a coworker or someone on social media who really always lifts me up. They might be more of an acquaintance, but to make a conscious effort to go seek, having a, social something with that person, because you get that lift. And, those are some of the actions that you can take that are very simple, but, still take the doing to enrich your life.
Yeah, I think that's a really huge thing, that especially now, when our social interactions are more limited than they have been in the past. But I think we're going to get into, when we get back to that reality of having, that one-on-one time or that group time, being around people that help elevate you,
right,
is so much easier, rather than being around, like, if you were around me as that person that was, worrying to me about, like, your problems. If that's who surrounds me, these worry warts, it's just going to bring me down. And then it affects everything we just spoke about, with the law of attraction and the things that go between our ears, those thoughts. So this whole thing is really cool that it can come full circle from the self-care to, the initial things we spoke about with, that self-discovery. So it's powerful stuff. I think that this book is going to be something that's going to be, I can't use the word Bible for it, but it's going to be something that'll be really a foundation for people to grab onto, where they can, really look at themselves from that 50,000 foot view and say, wow, there's so many good things that I can do for myself over the course of a lifetime.
Thank you, Josh.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because you were talking about how you read so much, how much you consume in and around personal development. Well, to be honest, in raising a family and running a nonprofit, I really haven't. It's been 20 years, honestly, since I've really sunk myself into this, that, or the other. I haven't really, honestly, haven't felt the need to feed myself that way. I've just had other priorities, which also means I kind of wrote this in a bubble. So I didn't really know until I got it out there. And I'm just grateful. It's been very well received. And, there's a lot of me and my life experiences and anecdotes in it and throughout to reinforce the things that we're talking about. And it's just nice to hear that people are getting good things from it.
Yeah. So let's just share. You said the gift that everybody gets to get is the report card. Just review that one more time for everybody. The link will be in the show notes for everybody. So just review it.
Easy download, self-care report card. And the same thing goes, just like any book, you can go read it for free, the first part, and then you'll know, or, come across my podcast or anything like that, get to know each other better, that kind of thing.
And where are other places that people can find? What are the best places besides your website and the podcast, which we know?
Sure. So, I'm on LinkedIn is probably my best social platform.
Okay.
Extension Matthew Zinman on LinkedIn, and at Matthew Zinman, which is my Twitter and Instagram. Although it sounds odd to say because I'm not, social media, but you can find me there. I do stay active on it. Okay,
great. I think the audience will love this conversation, and I'm really going to push everybody. I think get this book and just dive in. I'll say your life will be better. If this conversation didn't help, you got to maybe rewind a little bit and listen again. But we want to get you into some of the Z-isms. The book is Z-isms, Insights to Live By. So, Matt, I appreciate you. This has been an awesome conversation, and I think we'll probably be connecting again in the near future.
I sure hope so. Thank you, Josh. Thanks for everybody listening. Really appreciate it.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that episode with Matt Zinman. I want to let you know that the show is sponsored by the 3065 Lifestyle Shift Program. If you want to be fitter, faster, healthier, connect with others like yourself for just $5 a month on the healthiest place on social media, you definitely want to check out the link in the show notes and see how you can get involved. You also want to make sure that you do connect with Matt. Get his book, check out his podcast, connect with him on social. All of those details will be down below in the show notes. Whether you're listening on iTunes or anywhere you are, you will find these details. So have an awesome day, evening or night, from wherever, whenever you're listening. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.